So here's an update on the Coyote swap after coming back from Vietnam. Been gone for most of January, so I never touched this or thought about it, thankfully, which is probably why the vacation was so nice to deal with any of the headaches of this. But as you can see, it's in place, and it should actually not rub on anything. As you can see, maybe the exhaust manifolds are on and doesn't rub against the steering column, but it's getting really frustrated on the swap at the amount of money that if you want a problem solved you have to spend. And after rebuilding the engine, I have a bad feeling that something's not right on this, because when I did the breakaway torque or rotational torque, when you just have the crank in the block, it was a little bit over OEM spec, and then when all the pistons were in without the heads on, it almost was impossible to rotate over. And then once I put the oil pump on, the MMR billet oil pump, it actually locked the whole engine in place. And if you've ever put one of these on, it's a notch on the crank and it slides on, and either it's going to slide on or it won't. And then I took the oil pump off, examined it, put it back on, and the engine could rotate again very stiffly because all the pistons were on at this point. And then after I put the heads on, and it's basically a complete engine, or a long block, I guess you would call it, I can't rotate it at all, and I either tighten or loosen the harmonic pulley or balancer nut off, or torque it way too high. So spent a lot of money on new parts on this engine, and I have a worry that possibly one of the bearing caps is messed up, the main caps, because I did notice when I put it together, because when I noticed it was tight, I started taking off one cap at a time. There was one that had a significant amount of extra strain on that rotational torque than the rest, so I got to worry that maybe this crank or this block is a little bit out of whack, and that's what ruined the crank the last time. It wasn't a lack of oiling, it was actually an oblong block. But I did plastic gauge all the bearings, and they did come up fine. I only did the top side, but you would assume that they'd both be the same. But at this point, I don't know. I really want to take it all apart and get a dial indicator and check the bores to see if they're actually round. But in order to do that, this thing won't be on the road this year. Yeah, it is what it is. So I went ultra ghetto here, and I picked this up, and I'm going to do a 2-valve 4.6 liter, because honestly this car now in the engine bay with the hydro boost and the K-member and the suspension arms, because they're 2002 Mustang, other than the shock towers, which are 79 to 85 Mustang, it's basically a 96 and up Mustang. So this should bolt right in. It's going to be a little bit of dicking around getting the right parts I need, because this is out of a newer Crown Vic, which has the electronic throttle body. So I'll have to go and get one off of a Mustang, I believe, or some of the earlier Lincolns. I believe I'm actually going to go pick up, I'll do some more research on it, but I think I need to get the ECU out of a first-gen Lincoln 2-valve, because it doesn't have the VATS, the vehicle anti-theft shit, in the ECU. It's a separate system, and it's a lot more basic of an ECU. So hopefully I can just plug in that ECU and plug in the basic stuff. My only issue would be that these later ones are coil on plug, and I think the other ones have a distributor driven off the cams. I might be wrong on that, but I haven't done too much research. But end of the day, I can dick around and figure that out. In worst case, it's just a mega squirt away. Even like a mega squirt 2 would run this to how I want, which is I want a cold start and a wide open, and the rest whatever. It's only for the summertime burnouts, and then maybe I'll want to keep this, because these engines are too cheap. I picked this up for $400, and it came with all 4 cats and the auto tranny, although I don't know if anybody wants those autos, but yeah, so I got the cats, and I'll get probably $200 at least for those, and yeah, hopefully this is a lot easier. It's definitely going to be down on power now, because this engine's like 250, maybe somewhere around there. It's hard to say. It's a PI 2-valve out of a 2004 or 5, I can't remember, maybe 2002 Crown Vic. So it's one of the later 2 valves, so it has potentially more power. I don't know if that's true or not, but it should be over 200, versus this is rated at 400 something, but with the extra cam, it's like you could be getting close to 400 wheels. So it's definitely down on power, but it's also down on size and complexity. And I can still run my TKO transmission that I've rebuilt, and now I can have an engine that I know that runs. I can put that one in, and if the transmission doesn't blow up and it's great, I can zero that as an issue that's causing a weird sound. And that was an issue I had with this originally when it was in the RX-7, is that it was making a knocking sound, and I thought it was clutch related, but it turns out it wasn't. It was definitely a crank bearing and a rod bearing that had spun and sent shmoo everywhere in the engine. So the other option too is I might just take all my nice parts out, sell what I can, and just go and buy a used F-150 engine, because 390 horsepower or whatever, let's say 300 of the wheels in an early gen Mustang is more than enough for street driving. So yeah, that's where we're at this. Fender flares are on, and yeah, I will get back to it probably next week. So talk to you guys later.